You've been told you need to be strong. But what if strength doesn't always mean holding it all together? What if true resilience feels more like water, flowing, flexible, and alive with God's love? In this series, you'll discover how you can move from surviving to thriving, finding a strength that heals, restores, and carries you forward.
So sometimes we start small groups off with icebreaker questions, just something to get to know each other, introduce everyone, that kind of thing. And last year I had a group that started with this question: what is your perfect day?
Ooh, I like that question.
Me too. And it's stuck with me. It was the first time that I really put words to what my perfect day was. If you were going to answer that, what would you say?
Well, if I think about my perfect day, I may be a little bit predictable in this, in that, number one, it's going to involve my family.
Sure.
My wife, Jana, my kids, Drew and Kate. But probably hiking. But everyone gives me a hard time because I talk about hiking all the time. So maybe that might be my ultimate day to go hiking, perfect day. But my penultimate day would be to go snowshoeing in mountains.
Oh.
I love cold, I love snow, and I love mountains. And maybe one of the best experiences of my life was snowshoeing in mountains. And so
Wow.
I'd start my day with that. I'd probably move on. Again, this is my penultimate day. We'd go to a cabin or something, and with a view of the woods with a fireplace, and play games or read books or something. And then probably something to eat or drink.
Sure.
Somewhere in there that was enjoyable or fun.
Yeah.
So that's my perfect day. How about you, Michal? What's your perfect day?
For me, it's sitting on the beach next to the ocean. So I know that doesn't make me a good Michigander, but the ocean with the salt water, reading a book.
Sound of the waves.
The sound of the waves, the wind blowing, the salt in the air, all of that. And it seems like no matter how careful I am about sun protection, I get sunburned every time. Every single time. I could be wearing a long sleeve rash guard and a hat and sunglasses and cover my legs with a towel, and then I get sunburn on the side of my neck. So that's part of the experience now. And then after all of that, to go out for a seafood dinner. My favorite is to get a whole fish. It's so good. It's my favorite thing.
Very good.
I know it's not
a
yours.
Little difference in our perfect days.
Yeah. Pretty significant differences, but yes. Outside, good food,
yes.
All that kind of stuff. The reason that I bring this up is because last week we were talking about glimmers. We were talking about those things. It's the opposite of a trigger. So if a trigger is something that activates your nervous system, a glimmer is something that soothes your nervous system and it helps you become more regulated. And I think these glimmers can be an anchor for us in strength. And today we're going to be talking about integrated strength and more about how to regulate our nervous system in that. But let's pause here for our first chat question. What is your perfect day? Turn to someone around you, put it in the chat, take a minute and talk about it. So we've been in this series, Strung Like Water. We're wrapping it up today. And it's based on a book by Andi Kolber. She is a licensed professional counselor, and she spent some extra time in training on trauma, which is her specialty, her focus. I'm actually doing a Q&A with her, a live stream Q&A with her on March 8th. People can submit their questions via connection cards, email. You can show up live and tell me then, but, think about your questions. Yeah. And in this series, we've been talking about a strength that's different. It's not brute force, muscling, pushing through. It's something that's softer. It's something that is gentler, Still fierce, still strong, is strong like water.
Yeah. And in this series, we've been discovering that God's heart for us is more than just surviving, it's thriving. So we've said that, Jesus came that we might have life in life to the full, and everything in between, life and life to the full. And we've been talking throughout this series about the flow of strength. So the flow of strength starts with situational strength, which is sort of subconscious and reactionary to like those stress and traumatic things that we have in life that are the really hard stuff. And then the flow of strength, we've talked about transitional strength, and that's tending to our pain, where we're a little bit more conscious of what we're doing. And
there's like choices involved.
And then today what we'll be talking about is integrated strength, which is where we have this internal sense of safety, and we've sort of been able to process the trauma and the really difficult experiences that we've had in life. And the flow of strength isn't linear. Right. So it's not like we just move to integrated strength, and when we get there,
we're done.
Yeah, we're good. Yay. And we just hang up. Like, no, life continues to happen. It's a flow of strength, because we'll go back to situational strength, and we'll need transitional strength to get us back to integrated strength. And it keeps on moving. Right.
Maybe one way that we can think about this is a water feature. We actually have a little water feature here. Yeah. In situational strength, it would be like something's gone wrong, and we've turned it off to fix it.
You can turn it off. Boom.
We turn it off, yeah.
It's off.
Except that then it stays there. You have to turn it off to fix it, but sometimes it gets stuck there. And if you never turn it back on, then it's not serving its purpose.
It isn't. So that's situational strength. Transitional strength is, the water feature is getting worked on. And so there's parts that are ordered. There may be some trials where we're turning it on and seeing, is it all working and everything like that. But there might be some more needs. And so then you keep on working on it. But it's getting some maintenance work being done.
Right. And then integrated is it's on and it's working. And maybe in the future, there's things that you have to do, cleaning it, upkeep, whatever, but it's serving its purpose, and is acting the way that it was intended to be. So today we're going to be focusing on that integrated strength. And if people miss the episodes, the messages that we've had before, I do really think it would be helpful to go back and watch them. They're all on our YouTube pages, or on our YouTube page or Facebook pages, or
podcasts.
Podcasts.
Lots of ways.
Yeah, lots of ways you can engage it, but it's all good stuff, and it kind of builds on each other.
It does. So here's one way we might define integrated strength. It's accepting that God's posture toward us is compassionate and kind, and adopting that same posture toward ourselves and others. So there's some kinds of things you might say when you're in integrated strength. And one of those things is, I'm living from love, not for it.
Yeah.
And another thing that you might say is, I think I can see the bigger picture now.
You might say to yourself, maybe I can try something new. Or even, I think I can do this thing because I've done it before. I have some experience with this.
Yeah. Or you might say to yourself, I know who I truly am. That's huge. Or you might say, I have the support and the resources I need to do this thing. Or one final thing you might say is, there are people who are really for me. And it not only feels safe to connect with them, those people that I care about, it also feels good to do that.
So to help us wrap our heads around this, because it's hard to put into one sentence what integrated strength is. Yeah. We're going to look at 3 aspects of integrated strength: return, reimagine, and rest. And rest will also double as our compassionate resource. Okay.
So a quick disclaimer as we get into this, that, move through strengths as you are able. This isn't like we need to brute force push our way toward integrated strength. Again, that's not the point of this series at all. So if you're not ready to engage this integrated strength, that's fine. But this can be kind of in our minds as hopefully we are moving together toward that strength. So our first thing today is return. Returning is this cyclical way that we can revisit the past, particularly the experiences we've had in our own lives. And sometimes this happens on purpose, like when we return to a physical or geographical place where something happened in our past, like maybe it's the area where you grew up or something like that. But sometimes it happens because the calendar cycles.
Yeah, every
And
12 months.
Every 12 months, you get those same dates again that were significant in your life. And, it can happen when a certain smell or taste or, there's these things that can just transport us back in time. And you can choose to engage in those moments with like past hurt, with things from your past. And it's going to look different for different people in different seasons of life. But we can find an integrated strength in returning to the past.
Yeah. So a little over 10 years ago, I had 2 miscarriages, and people who have had miscarriages experience them in all kinds of different ways. For some people, it's just sort of a sad thing that happened and they move on. And some people, it wrecks them. Like there's all kinds. And I would never say that the way that I experienced it is the right way or the best way or the only way. But for me, it really wrecked me. I mean, it was devastating. And the first couple of significant dates, like the original due dates or the anniversaries of the miscarriages, I expected those to be hard, and they were. And then as some time went on, I wasn't actively thinking about those losses in the same way. And then we'd come up on it in the calendar. I'm not thinking about it. And then I sort of realize I'm irritated or irritable. I'm down. I feel like kind of bleh is what we call it. Like just blue.
Off.
And then I realize, oh, it's that time of the year. Like it's the anniversary. And it's like my body remembered that loss. Now, like 10 years later, I don't really notice that as much. But in those first couple of years, it could catch me off guard. And I think sometimes we might say to ourselves, like, why am I still so affected by this? And it's part of that return. It's part of revisiting.
So you can't really help the calendar returning to a date every 12 months. Like it is just going to happen. But there are some other ways that we can have some control over our return to traumatic events. And like I mentioned earlier, it could be like returning to a childhood home or a hometown and like choosing to engage with things from your past. It might look like EMDR therapy. EMDR is this sort of therapy where a patient will revisit traumatic memories, but they'll do that while engaging some kind of outside sensory input to help with that. And it might look like opening up the metaphorical Pandora's box, right? To revisit memories where like, usually you keep them in the box and you might decide like, as part of integrated strength, I'm going to return and open this box on some of these things. It's really important though, that again, you do this at the pace that's right for you. Like, again, we're not brute force, like pushing through something, but as you are able, as you have the compassionate resources to engage with, to do this sort of work, we return. And you'll need to draw on transitional strength. You'll need to draw on support. You'll need to draw on safety in order to do this return work of integrated strength. And what happens when you do this is you actually reactivate your nervous system. Like when you go back to this stuff, you get activated. Like there's a reason why we usually try to keep it in the box. But with safety and support that you've developed in transitional strength, you are able to engage these things and to process them and to move out of dysregulation, but on purpose, so that you can heal and grow. Now, many of us will need help from licensed therapists to do this sort of work. Yes. Processing the real deep harm that we've experienced is a big deal. And we have a list of counselors that we've provided. You see it on the screen. There's a QR code there that you can take to go and visit our list of resources. And these are people who are associated with Sycamore Creek who can help with this work. Yeah.
One verse that comes to mind as I'm thinking about this idea of the compassionate resource that we're engaging and like just taking the time that we need here is from 1 John. We love because God first loved us. And I usually think about that as like we love other people because God first loved us. Some people might think of it as like we love God because God first loved us. But it's interesting to me in this context to reimagine this as we love ourselves because God first loved us. Like God models love for us.
Yeah.
And God finds us really lovable. And I think there's something really profound with that. Like there are people that I struggle to love. There are people that I find difficult to love, but not God. God doesn't find any of us difficult to love. And there's something that's really profound about that to me. So as we're thinking about return and anniversaries and stuff, let's pause here for another chat question. How important is it to you to acknowledge anniversaries of significant dates, whether they're good or bad? Take a minute and talk about it.
So the first aspect of integrated strength that we talked about is return. And the second aspect of integrated strength is reimagine. And this step is about developing some mental and cognitive flexibility. We're especially regarding our experiences and who we are. And it's moving away from like either or black and white sort of thinking about things. And one place that we do this at Sycamore Creek is, we'll often offer people options like you could do this or you could do that, or you could do something that we haven't thought of. Listing options, but often there's something we haven't thought of. It's not either or.
Yeah. Colbert tells a story in her book about when she had her second child. Both of us have more than one kid. And we know that like, it's a huge adjustment when you have your first kid, but then your second kid, you're taking care of a newborn and an additional human.
Yes.
It's a lot to juggle. And she, felt like things weren't going well. She was overwhelmed. She was losing her patience, which of course, that's what happens. You're exhausted, sleep deprived. And she felt like she was spiraling and believing this narrative that because of her reactions, she must not be a good mom. Because she was carrying a certain set of expectations about what a good parent would be. And she describes that she paused and reimagined and asked herself, I wonder if I could do this differently.
That's a great question.
Yeah. And then asking like, what do I want to pass on to my kids? What do I want to model for my kids about how I'm taking care of myself in this season? So she reimagined what it would look like to be a good mom. And that part of being a good mother is taking care of herself. And this required letting go of those preconceived notions. She had to let go of what a good mother looked like, and realized that she couldn't do it all.
No.
And she couldn't do it alone, which is a reality that, none of us can do parenting alone. And we're often sold this idea, like, just do it on your own. Like if you just planned better, it would be fine. And that's just not true.
So Kohler describes it as part of her work in that moment was to accept that she might disappoint other people.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a hard one.
I don't like that. I don't like that part.
Let other people be disappointed. Everyone has opinions about what makes a good parent.
They really do.
Everyone does. And she had to accept that and just let go of needing the approval of anyone else as she parented. And she had to get comfortable with disappointing other people. Your reimagining is often going to involve disappointing someone.
Right.
Like it's part of it. And it's not a requirement of reimagining, but the reality is that reimagining is often going to change the status quo. It's going to change the way things currently are. And the status quo is comfortable. Like we all kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I know how everything's going to go. And reimagining changes that. And there's going to be some resistance often that we'll encounter when we do this.
Yeah. One place that I've been reimagining lately is the way that I think about my internal resources, or like my capacity to do things. This is kind of teasing the next section, which is about rest, but that's what it takes for me to reimagine. For a long time, I felt like being a good friend, a good spouse, a good employee, a good parent meant that I was like constantly productive. And this would show up at home sometimes, like if Nathan started to make dinner, if he was working in the kitchen, then I felt like I needed to be working in the kitchen too, either helping him or like doing something else.
Okay. Got to be productive.
Yeah. When someone's cleaning, I need to get up and clean too. Now, I only really recently realized that this was probably lingering from when I was a kid and I babysat a lot. I remember people telling me, it's okay if you're done and you sit down and you read your book, but when the parent comes home, you need to get up and be working and look like you're being productive.
Oh boy.
They were like telling me how to manage their emotions.
Yeah.
And I really internalized that, like, I need to be productive. At least I need to look productive. Mm-hmm. So part of reimagining what it means to be a good person for me has meant giving myself permission to rest. Even giving myself permission to rest when other people are working around me. And knowing that, like, I can plan for this sometimes if I know that there's a weekend that I've got a bunch of things scheduled or I've got a lot of social events that, like, I need to plan some recovery time. And even that sometimes the most responsible thing for me might be to stay in my pajamas all day, which is pretty counterintuitive, but that's what I'm learning. That's what I'm reimagining.
You're reimagining.
Yeah.
There's some other examples of what reimagining might look like. It could be the woman who grew up with hypercritical parents. She finds the courage to disappoint others and finally pursue her vocational passion.
Yeah.
It could be the man who felt weak for acknowledging his sadness, learns to grieve in therapy, and then offers that to others through a peer-led grief group.
Yeah.
It could be the sexual abuse survivor who never thought she could advocate for herself, finds that she has a gift for law and she can be a lawyer and help advocate for others. The client healing from trauma finds her voice and begins to speak out against injustice. Those are all examples of reimagining in really, really big ways.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can just be reimagining what a season of life looks like. You know, parenthood with young kids is very different from single living or from parenting teenagers.
It really is.
And sometimes reimagining can just be reimagining what the season of life might look like for you.
Yeah. Like we said, this reimagining often involves disappointing people. That's not the goal.
Yes.
It's not like we're setting out to like disappoint people, but it's a byproduct often. And so in order to really give ourselves permission to reimagine, we have to give ourselves permission to disappoint people. And I mean, Jesus modeled this for us.
He disappointed lots of people.
Yeah, he was not what the Jewish people were expecting. Instead of a warrior, he was a carpenter. Instead of being born in a palace, he lived in a small village. Instead of pushing violence, he preached peace. Instead of seeking fame, he said the last shall be first. Mm-hmm. Instead of surrounding himself with the elite, he welcomed children. Over and over, people projected on him their own understanding of the Hebrew scriptures. And even though people attempted to push him into that narrow understanding, he stayed true to who he is, and the role that he was on earth to play. Yeah. He brought a different kind of kingdom. And I mean, even after he died and after everything that the disciples learned, like they were still flummoxed and disappointed. They didn't understand. Jesus disappointed people.
He did. I think Jesus, to a certain way, he like kind of pushed people to reimagine.
Yeah.
And that went hand in hand with that disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about return. We've talked about reimagine. Our third aspect of integrated strength is rest.
Yeah.
And so we've made it here. We kind of hinted earlier through your story of rest. And reimagining and rest, they really go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Rest can be counterintuitive to this work, though, because rest isn't really active.
Right.
And so this is where, again, we're going to rely on that strong like water metaphor, because it's not always active. Andy Colbert says this: many of us intuitively know that the only way to truly work through something is to face it directly, to feel it, to see it, to do it, to live it. Yet, as we know from our work in this series, a classic view of pushing ourselves until we break doesn't actually lead to resilience. There's wisdom in the rhythms of our bodies that help us to understand when to move forward and when to pause, to rest, to ask for help, or connect with deeper resources. And this is where a more holistic, expansive strength is born. Again, if you start just forcing water through the water feature, you might unclog it, but you might also cause some damage.
Yeah, you might just break it.
You might just break it. Deep work, this is really important, deep work requires deep rest.
Yeah. As we're wrapping up this series, it's helpful for us to remember that a normal part of being human is losing our way.
Yeah.
That we can take steps forward, we can learn a new pattern, and then we can fall back on the ways that we did things before. We might say yes when we meant to say no. We might communicate indirectly when we're working to communicate more directly.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, maybe we can just remind ourselves, I can stay with myself. I can be gentle with myself. I'm really lovable by God.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be in process and I'm making progress. I can come back to myself. I'm only responsible for myself, and it's okay for others to be uncomfortable. I'm allowed to take care of myself.
We are. And when we despair of ever making progress, we can come back to this scripture. I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And that brings us back to what we started with, glimmers.
Yeah.
Glimmers are goodness that is all around us. And a key part of our integrated strength is going to be goodness and clinging to goodness. And may we remember, my truest, most profound strength will never be found in denying the reality of my personhood or my story. Instead, the deepest strength has always been about welcoming them home. So again, there's not a finish line. Like integrated strength is like a finish line you just arrive. And the more we practice compassionate resourcing and gently tending to our wounds, the shorter amount of time we'll need to get back to integrated strength. The less time we will spend in situational strength. We'll learn how to, pop in situational strength. We need that during times of crisis. It's really important. But our bodies weren't made to stay there. Like we don't want to stay there. We move through the flow of strength. So integrated strength, again, is the healthiest. It's the most resilient. It's the place where we want to be. And situational strength is still strength.
Yeah.
It is good. And it's still part of the way we are and the way that we survive.
So again, part of integrated strength is learning how to rest well.
It is. It's really important.
It's return, reimagine, and rest. And so our last question for discussion is about rest. What is one area in your life where you need rest? Take a minute and talk about it. So every week we've given folks and ourselves a compassionate resource. Just some kind of exercise that helps us to take all of this from being theoretical to living it. That's an important part of this nervous system work, is like it going into our bodies. And so we've already been talking about rest, but that's this week's compassionate resource. And so on your own, that could look like taking a nap. It could look like picking one day that you're sleeping in and not setting an alarm. It could look like spending a day in your pajamas or letting your house get messy in order to take the time you need to rest. But together, that could look like meditating on some promises, some expressions of God's love for us, and letting those sink in. So we're going to read some of those verses that tell of God's love for us. And then we have a benediction that Colbert wrote at the end of her book. And we're just going to share that. So I want to invite people to get into a comfortable but alert position. We're not trying to fall asleep, but we're not trying to hold tension. We're just resting. And I say, like, If it feels comfortable and safe to folks, they might close their eyes, but you don't have to. You might just soften your gaze and look toward the ground. Hear these verses today.
Yet the Lord longs to be gracious to you. Therefore, he will rise up to show you compassion.
For I am the Lord your God, who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you.
But with everlasting kindness, I will have compassion on you, says the Lord your Redeemer.
May you find safety in places you never dreamed, and compassion in the unlikeliest of connections. May every moment of goodness you experience begin to create a reservoir of hope in your body from which you can draw whenever you need.
May each of your senses be attuned to glimmers of beauty and healing wherever they are available. And when pain and difficulty come, may you have the courage and tenacity to honor them while also accessing the compassionate resources that are available to you now.
In those times when you worry about being both too much and not enough, I hope you'll remember that just as your softness is a gift, so is your fire.
May you know in the depths of yourself that healing is always sacred work. Nothing you do to turn with compassion towards yourself or another will go to waste, because healing is worth the risk and the work.
And finally, my deepest prayer is that you will experience the withness and nearness of God, in whom all things are held together. Amen.
Amen.